everyone is invited from other groups to comment, to ask, to give their ideas about the topic that is discussed. So group number one, bevakasha. Who's the representative? So you don't have to get up, just present your topic.
So our topic was positive speech with Lashon Hara, and what we learned is that there's generally the rule that you can't say negative things. Can I explain this correctly? Yeah. And the negative effects can lead to what it says on our sheet, just it can destroy a person's self-confidence, entire relationships, communities, and empires, and we just spoke about how so often we do speak negatively of each other, and then just the difference between constructive criticism, saying something to someone because you're trying to improve something versus just talking poorly behind someone's back, and how just negative speech can just lead to destruction and just community morale. You say something negative and then everybody starts to go off of that one negative feeling, and then just the downward spiral type.
It's like bullying right now. Like the kids that are feeling bullied.
This has more to do with gossiping.
So what do you guys think, please?
Yeah, sure. We talked about the topic of.
So before we go to your group,
Oh, just.
I just want everybody to have the time to comment, please.
Well, like with that, my rabbi always would tell the story of the pillow that was cut open, the feather pillow, and, you know, the feathers traveled and you can't get them back, that whole story.
Tell it, please.
And, the whole story.
How long is it?
Okay.
It's short. Yeah.
This man went to his rabbi and said, you know, I've done something wrong. And the rabbi asked what he did, and the guy said, you know, I slandered this man, and this happened, blah, blah, blah. And the rabbi said, I want you to go home and take a pillow off of your bed. And I want you to cut it open and let the feathers fly. And he said, and once you do that, come back to me. And he said, okay. So he went home, cut the pillow open, the feathers flew. He went back to the rabbi and he said, I did what you told me, but I don't feel any better. He said, now go and collect all of those feathers. And the man said, I can't do that. He said, that's what you do when you gossip.
Thank you.
I think that people, even though America's super individualistic, always have this feeling and need for necessities, and one of them being communication, belongingness. And so when you do gossiping and such, you're burning your bridges, pretty simply put. So I don't know if you guys notice myself, I don't say very many bad things about people because you always want to encourage a connection. You always say good things, even if it makes you feel weird, because it's just too simple to spread the feathers.
And when you do, you detract from your own character for those that are around you. It makes you look bad.
It's an interesting outlet about it. And yeah, how's it back, please?
I just think you really shouldn't say anything that you're not willing to say to the person's face.
If you're like a really brave person and you're willing to say a lot of bad things to someone's face, is that good?
No, definitely not. I think you should definitely think before you speak, and if you think that you wouldn't want it said to you, you just shouldn't say it.
Now, actually, do you think Lashon Hara is saying something to be malicious, or saying something to, like for us, part of the conversation we had is, you know, something that you don't want to say to someone's face would be gossiping behind their backs. If you're too afraid to say it to their face, do you think it's still Lashon Hara if you think it's malicious in intent when you say it to somebody? If you call somebody a bad name, or you say something that's derogatory to somebody because you're just that type of person? Or do you think it's okay, like, you know, if Sam asks me, do I like his shoes, and I say, no, they're not really my taste. They're not really my taste. Is that okay? And Lashon Hara, if I went then and said to somebody else, I also don't like Sam's shoes. Do you see what I'm saying, like the malicious nature or something?
I think Zach and I have spoken in the past that a lot of times it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. So you could say it to somebody else, and you could be like, yo, did you check out Sam's shoes? They look awesome on him, but like...
I couldn't pull them off.
I couldn't pull them off. That's really how you say it.
Give me the example.
Poor Sam.
This is the poor Sam.
It's all sorts of melody.
Yeah. That was a good example for Lashon Hara. Yeah, please.
Well, I think evolutionarily, like how humans have contained
themselves within the human realm. So they've developed consciousness, self-consciousness, and all this. And I think that's led to a lot of the problems with gossiping and all these, all these qualities that you see in human beings. Because when you put human beings together, they become more complex. You start to see a lot of the complexity that comes out of like such a life form as us.
Interesting what you're saying is interesting thought. Just a second, I just want to add to what you said. The ancient sages, they said that they give it the snake as a symbol for lashon hara, for unethical speech. And why is that? Because they say that the only, it's not necessarily true scientifically, but it seems symbolically true and nice. But the only animal that kills, not all, even things that it can't eat, is a snake. And why would a snake bite a person? It can't swallow a person. A lion will not eat an elephant, will not try to kill it because it's too big to swallow. So sometimes, talking lashon hara is something that is already that even animals don't do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Only humans are. Shaker said, all the animals have compassion. I don't have compassion, therefore I'm human. That's please.
I was going to say, I feel like human beings are social animals and they gravitate towards each other, and that people, I think, gossip sometimes as a way to bond each other. It brings them closer together, but it's a negative way to bring people together, and so to be active and maybe positive, you have to find positive things to bring humans together, because I think that's probably the best way to get away from gossiping.
Good. One last one, please.
So it's not even necessarily what you consider malicious. Anytime you speak of someone when they're not present, you may say something nice to something. You maybe even mention that someone's, with a child, but that may not be something that they want to get out. So you can, even just talking about anyone when they're not present so they can't back themselves up or can kind of do control right then and there, could be malicious. You don't always know what you're doing when you're speaking of other people.
So, in other words, we have more groups. Thank you for everybody. Just wanna close this topic up. We all believe, I think, we all know the damage that is done daily around us. Sometimes I can only say about myself, I participate in that also. I'm a consumer, I also do that myself. So maybe, thinking about it, taking some time during today, tomorrow, maybe sometime, think how can I apply this practically into my life. So that, group number one. Group number two, please.
Cool. So we have the topic of sensitivity, and some of our sources stated about, saying things in front of people that makes embarrass them, being sensitive about what you have as far as belongings and how close you need to build or disturbing the peace, things like that. And then, of course, asking people to be kind to someone and little lessons like that. And the questions for discussions, the first of three, which we only got to two. So ask, do you think a non-sensitive person can turn into a sensitive person, or is it a matter of genetics? And so right off the bat, it called out just to clear a slate. We can go into nature versus nurture kind of whole discussion on this one because of the genetics. Somebody could possibly be biologically disabled and not be able to be sensitive. And then we brought in culture and balance of power and different things about why people would want to be sensitive, why people would want to connect with one another. But I think Aiden pretty much said, in Hebrew, a golden. Don't do to your friend what something you wouldn't like to do to others. It's the golden rule that applies to all sensitive situations. And then we went into the culture versus survival, because sometimes second question, other times when it's best not to be sensitive, and that goes into, well, what if you're surviving? Is diplomacy a very intrinsic way of surviving? Probably. It's much different from someone's coming at you and going to kill you and harm you, and you have be sensitive to this person, different situation. So we take it to a different level depending on how we shoot. How we shoot.
Yeah, please.
I think especially traveling brings up the topic of sensitivity a lot, especially when you're in places where you're unfamiliar with people, with culture, with social situations. It becomes very difficult because you're out of your comfortable environment. What might be sensitive to the people you live with is not sensitive to the people that you see, in another country or even in another state, in a different town, different age groups, different, all of that.
Which is cultural.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And you have to pay attention and you have to be cautious. And
So very good. Thank you. Please.
I would say, sort of, to piggyback on Chad's point, sometimes the only way to learn, especially about cultural sensitivities, is to challenge them, and not necessarily to, ease off. And to be, sometimes being too sensitive can prevent you from sort of approaching that cultural knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Interesting. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yesterday we watched some films, and two of them were about marriages and they were both Jewish families, but they were from different countries. And there was a problem with the couple getting together, and then another one. But by making a film about that, they were pushing those cultural boundaries, the sensitivity, to push people to talk about it and maybe change the way that things are done better.
Thank you. Please.
The one thing that, if you guys haven't already heard, I work at Apple, so I have to deal with a lot of people coming into the store. It's PR is basically my job. I am representing my company and my products, and when people come in and get upset or angry, I have to be sensitive to them and to their problems, to their needs, what they need. And there are times that I'm unable to do exactly what I would like, but I have limited amount of time to spend with them, but I will extend that time out when they need it. I find myself, and this may be true of all of you, but when you're stuck in a position where somebody needs help and they need you, and you try your utmost to make them feel better and to actually perform an action that will make their lives easier in the long run, that sensitivity that you have performed has made the world a better place. And it's even the greatest thing in the world if you do that and the person themselves is also sensitive to you as you're trying to help them out. And the rare cases that I get that with some of my customers, it is something that I will remember for a long time. When I get home, I'm smiling on my face because the person was sensitive to me as I was sensitive to them. And it goes back to the golden rule. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Like reflecting, like what you exactly, like the world is a mirror.
I think a good point is that sensitivity is, people can be sensitive to their own needs, but you have to remember that no matter how irrational you think something is, you have to be sensitive to, it's their point of view. They're the person that you're being sensitive to. So you have to be able to look at that person's point of view. And if they're offended by something, even though you might think it's silly from your own point of view, it doesn't matter what you think, it's what they think.
It's interesting because we live in a place, in a world, where this is an everyday challenge. I mean, we talked about the cultural differences. Basically going into a community that lives sometimes 180 degrees away from you. Like, look into some of the communities here in Israel. I mean, you go to places where they'll ask, this is something that is happening, it's in the air in Israel for in the past few weeks. Like, people who are very different. I mean, there are people who are a little bit different. What about people who are 100% different? How would you feel? Will you be able to be that sensitive? That's a big question. Thank you, group number 2. Group number 3.
our group, we discussed hospitality. We were introduced to the topic with some sources. We went over how in the Middle East there's traditions of hospitality that are continued today, and it also stated that a lot of North American, well, in the Western world, it's not seen as often. And we also read an interesting source where Jerusalem was destroyed due to inhospitality of one host, and that story kind of made us realize that it's important to treat everyone kindly, and that hospitality isn't necessarily simply when someone's in your home or when you're visiting another's home, but it's also your behavior and how you act to people. And we discussed whether we've been offered hospitality in Israel, and I think we all felt that people were very hospitable here, and it was a difference from North America, but at the same time we also gave examples of where we all experienced some really unique instances of hospitality from strangers. And it would be beneficial if we incorporated some of these lessons into our life in North America, but I believe it's also a little bit harder because it is such a diverse population and a lot of different people there. So.
Thank you. Please.
Hospitality is definitely like a cultural thing, because I mean you even see that in the U.S. where, you know, what you might experience at one house is completely different from another house. You know, I have friends who their homes are like museums, and it's like you don't make noise and everything like that, and in my house you can barely hear. You know, and you know, so I think like sometimes you go into a warm home, sometimes you go into a cold home. I know, like for myself, you know, our summers in New Jersey are hot and humid, and I remember there was a woman walking down the road schwitzing to death, and I asked her if she wanted a glass of water, and it looked like, she looked at me like I had 3 heads, you know, and so I think hospitality is very different for every single person, but I mean, even if I might make someone feel uncomfortable for being overly hospitable, I think that that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, thank you.
What?
I said, love you.
Please.
I think holistically, part of what makes humans, or differentiates us as humans, is that we can be hospitable not only to our family and friends, but also strangers. And the more that occurs, the more that leads to just the overall success of humans as a race. When we can easily just be able to get along with someone that you don't even know, that you're different from, and be able to act as though, you know, we're all one people. So I think that's just the, you know, the tenet of hospitality that they were referencing, and how it can really just lead to human flourishing.
Cool, thank you. By the way, one of the things I do, I'm a sexual therapist, and there was a research that was done in Israel. I'm sure numbers are not that different in America, where most of the people that get hurt, they get hurt from someone they already knew. So anybody heard "Don't talk to strangers" growing up? Okay, don't talk to strangers has nothing to do with facts. Okay, this has to do a bit with a very basic human, like what you were saying, very basic human fear of the different, but it has nothing to do to your personal security. Okay, personal security is penetrated usually from people actually who are very close, or just you know them from the past. So that's like it. So thank you for that. What? Please.
Say just as Jewish people in general, though. I mean, my mom's been pushing food on my friends forever. So I mean, like for Shabbos, I'll have friends over, or you know, like my son has a tutor that comes to the house. I try to force feed her. I don't know if it's just brought, you know, just based on our religion, but eat, and then have more until you're stuffed, and then once you're stuffed, keep eating. You know?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Just based on what you said, and sometimes it's what's closest to us. Because I think sometimes a lot of people tend to use the excuse, well, you're closest to me, so I can show you what really hurts me. And in turn, they kind of hurt you because they show you, like, or if someone else hurts them and they're upset about it, they'll almost backlash at you because you're you understand them or you're not going anywhere. And that, I think, tends to definitely be a problem, because it's like, it's kind of like none of us knew each other when we first got here, and one, you know, it's like you think, okay, well, I'm definitely going to be really nice, because I want to make friends, you know? And I think that we all really get along, like we're a cohesive group, so I'm not saying that anyone in this group is not that way. But you know, when you first meet someone for the first time, you always want to put on a good front because you want them to want to be friends with you. So once they get to know you, that they know how you really feel about something sometimes. Hey, you all knew it right from the
I have a practical thing which goes about, I never even thought of this, which is, you know, be nicer to strangers. You know, talk to them because it breaks down barriers. Example that my family, or the doctor's family told me is, even though the patients come in to you strangers, or maybe you met them once or twice, have a really strong relationship, make that relationship happen, even with customer relationship management, because statistically, more doctors get sued by people they don't care about. I mean, they don't give hospitality to. So one of the actions or the things like, you know, doctor-patient communication is give them water, treat them really nicely, and educate them, because you're communicating more, making less ambiguity, and people, even though they're in a scary situation, receive the hospitality more effectively than the objective information.
That's actually a class in med school. They do bedside manner as one of the classes in medical school, so doctors understand whether or not they pass that class.
Exactly. Right. So it's almost protecting yourself to offer more hospitality, even though it's an unselfish act.
So basically,
It's interesting.
so thank you everyone. Just so back to reality. Okay, we'll be back to our not like we're not gonna live. I mean, maybe some like most of us would like to, but this is not gonna be forever. This is a little bit, as you said, it's like a little la la land. That what we're happening here, but it can be something we build for ourselves. It's going to be a little bit harder, but basically creating the environment around myself, being nice, being hospitable, is, as many people said here, not something that happens only in between the four walls of your house. That happens in the office, on the bus, subway, wherever you guys are at. Hospitable face is something you can wear to work and to everywhere you go. So thank you, group number 3. Group number 4, not least, please.
We spoke about gratitude and thankfulness versus thanklessness. The first source, which was the only one that we really covered, was about Adam blaming God for giving him Eve, who exposed him to the fruit from the tree of knowledge, and being completely unthankful for Eve just because of that reason. Though we did think it was a little indirect thanklessness. But so we started with a couple of very simple examples of thanklessness, which were when you're holding the door for someone and they don't acknowledge that you've done that and they just walk right through, or when you let someone go in traffic and they don't acknowledge that fact, and things like that, just small things. But we thought that came from, like, people can be very busy, and so they want to just rush through the door and get going. But that is just a focus on yourself, and it's selfish, and kind of a little egotistical to think that your needs are above needing to thank this person. But then we also thought, just because someone didn't express thanks, does that mean they aren't thankful? They may be thankful inside themselves, even if they didn't actually say it to you. So does one have to exhibit thankfulness to be thankful? And then there were a couple of situations like where we weren't sure what it would mean, like when people don't actually want to be helped. If you're trying to like help an old person across the street, but they want to prove that they can do it themselves, should they be thankful that you tried, or you know? And then another situation was, how about when someone evolves to the point where they weren't thankful at the time, but they've grown, and 2 years later, 10 years later, they are now thankful for what you did for them back then, because they have come to realize what that meant. And lastly, our contributions from our soldiers. In structured organizations, there is often an expectation for you to do something. And so your superiors might not be thankful, or they might not express thanks, because you're expected to do that, and you expect yourself to do that. And so no one acknowledges that you've done that. Hope I covered that.
Thank you.
Cesar.
Thank you. Someone haven't had a chance to talk maybe first? That was good. Yeah, that was good. Anyone who didn't have a chance to talk? Please.
This is a little bit weird. I'm recently married, like a year and a half. And as a gift, one of my girlfriends before I was married gave me a book on how to live with a man. And they were always talking about like the difference between girls want things cleaner sometimes, vacuum more often. And one of the tricks to get your husband to do more chores is to just thank him a lot all the time. It's like, oh, thank you so much for doing the dishes. I really appreciate it. Whereas if you just expect it and you don't acknowledge it, which maybe people should expect it, but no matter. If you don't acknowledge it.
We're just waiting for a soft to kick in, so.
If you don't,
I'm holding myself.
I think it's the same with a woman, too. It's the same with a woman. Like, if I cook dinner every night, I'll get mad if he doesn't say he likes it, or thank you. So I think it feels good to have the acknowledgement, but it also makes things like a domestic situation easier. And then when the family gets bigger too, like when you live with your parents, you have to be you thank them, they thank you, and you keep the peace. Thank you for moving your shoes. Thank you for not yelling at me for coming in late.
It's a simple thing you can do.
It's really simple, and it makes a huge difference.
It's simple, but do you feel like after a while, it's kind of like when you say, I love you too much, or you say thank you too much, that sometimes you wonder, are they sincerely thankful, or is it just acknowledgement of something versus, do they truly in their heart of hearts, are they thankful for what you did, or do they really love you? I mean, I definitely understand, but obviously, thank you so much for opening the door is a very different thank you than someone giving you a beautiful gift for your wedding. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If you're truly thankful, though, if you're genuinely going to be thankful, I think not only do you say it, but you can show it. I mean, maybe your expression or your body language or something. So you'll know if someone says thank you and they don't mean it.
Yeah. You want a second? Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, even if the thank you is just an acknowledgement, and it is every day you say, thank you for making dinner, or thank you for doing the dishes, and it's just part of the routine, it still means something just to hear that somebody acknowledges that you do this for them every day, even though you're doing it from your heart because you want to.
I'm just trying to challenge you guys to think. Adding to what
Adding to what Madeline was saying, you were talking about a new marriage, and it's kind of building this sort of foundation, and I feel like maybe when you've been married for 20, 30 years, or you have that kind of foundation set, you don't need to say thank you all the time because it is there, and you have that communication, but I think you need to build it, and that's probably true within a community in general.
Just curious, anybody ever, maybe yes, for sure yes, anybody ever took the time or the attention to call their parents saying, Dad, Mom, I was a menace, maybe I still am, but I want to tell you, I know you worked hard, thank you. Okay. So that's something that even if you do it 100 times, they'll appreciate it.
I did that to my grandfather this year, and then, out of the blue, just said I called to thank him for all the things he did for the family, the past, he's 86. And he goes, at the end, he goes, are you sick?
Are you dying?
And then when I said, no, I just want to leave, he goes, okay. He says, you want to talk to Bubby now? I'm like, yeah, sure, pass the phone down.
What would you do with that? I said the same, after, I'm married already for 13 years, by the way. And I still say thank you. I try to remember, at least. I try to express my appreciation. And after all these years, my kids got to the point where I actually understand how hard it is to be a parent. So actually, one day I'm like,
hey, I never had a chance. I never did that. So I called my dad, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I just want to say, I was thinking, I'm like, thank you. And he's, okay. Like, what would you do that? Okay, you're welcome. That was the end of it. Yeah, like, what would you do?
It's like, wow, I feel awkward now.
Okay, you first.
No, I'm gonna talk.
Like it's the same thing. Like my parents have been married for, they've been married for I don't know how long, 20-something years, but they've been together for like 35 years, like long time. And I don't know, like there was, I don't know if you knew there was like a big hurricane that came through, and right, it was a big deal. So both of my parents' moms were evacuated from their homes, and they came to stay with us. And my dad's mom is sort of a difficult person sometimes. And she ended up having to stay with us for like 3 weeks. Like they had no power in their house and whatever. And at the end of the 3 weeks, like my parents have been together so long, and like they just like you don't necessarily need to say thank you to like have somebody stay with like your mother-in-law stay with you. Like it's sort of like it's a family obligation. Like it's like your job. Like you don't need to say thank you. But at the end of the when my grandma finally went home, my dad went out like, well, my mom flowers because it's a way of saying like thank you. I know my mom's difficult, like but thank you for letting her stay with us. Like even though that's something that doesn't need thank you. You know, like theoretically, you don't have to say thank you for that because it's just one of those things that, like, of course she's gonna come and stay with us. Like, that she's our family, and we that's what you do for your family. But just the fact that like he went out and like went out of his way to say like yes, thank you. Like even after all this time, like I just think that that's like that's what people should do. They should always think of others and like say thank you. I just think it's a nice thing to do.
Do that. Thank you. You want to add something?
Cool.
We have one. Yeah.
All right. I think gratuity stems from reciprocation, and then you're familiar with you give something to me, I give something to you, and it's a reciprocation of gratification, where you do something for me and I say thank you, right? But there's different levels of gratification, internal and external, that you can provide. And the external is most immediate, right, which everybody likes. We love the rewards. We like to hear thank you. And for many reasons. I mean, you're welcome, or you're welcome, now finally do something for me. Something like that. But then there's another intrinsic gratification that's, I think, is longer and more withstanding. And here's a quick example of what I mean. There's my brothers and I can't remember the last time I hugged them. It's weird. Or I don't say I love you. I say thank you. But I'll say I love you because we have a foundation in our family. And when we finally went out on a family vacation, I said, Dad, this is the best. This is the best that could ever happen. And he said thank you to me. I mean, what are you talking about? But it might not only be the source of the immediate action that needs to be thanked, and in order to express gratification, it has to cultivate. And it could not just only cultivate from your family, but then to your experiences, which then can go into a higher power, which is why we're all here.
That was deep.
That was powerful. Thank you. I saw a hand being raised over there.
It was me, but sorry, I didn't want to.
You don't want to?
No, I did, but I don't want to take up the time if we don't have
Another
it. So.
one. So.
Go ahead. No, you by all means.
I want to ask if people think there's a difference between like appreciating, like gratitude, like thank you, versus like just like, oh God, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm grateful, I'm not crippled. Mm-hmm. Like there's like a difference. Like who do you thank for that? Is that gratitude? Mm-hmm. Like what's the difference between gratitude and appreciation?
Mm-hmm. So I'll hold this thought because that's a whole that opened.
Can of worms.
But that was a good point, and with that I wanna just bring all those different topics we were talking about. And by the way, in Hebrew, Jewish is Yehudi. Yehudi comes from the word Judah, which means comes from being thankful. Like Leah, our matriarch said. When Judah was born, she said, "Wow, this time I'm super thankful." That's what she called him Yehuda. So being Jewish in a way is being part of the thankful nation. Maybe. Anyway, what we just did here, we brought things that are, our everyday topics. In many ways, gossip, hospitality, being sensitive, what we just about, being thankful, gratitude, all these topics and more are discussed. But more than that, there's research that was done in America a few years ago showing that most people after school, if it's what kind of school it is, when they're done with their school, they stop reading books. I'm not talking about the papers, I'm not talking about articles that you got to learn, professional articles. I'm talking about purely inspiring yourself. People don't do that. The general public don't do that. And part of our tradition, our Jewish tradition, is taking the time. You say this library, some people have this kind of library in their homes, and some people have it even bigger than that. You don't have to have this in your house. You can pick some really nice books, but today we have approached to unlimited almost amount of knowledge. And you can bring to a family dinner, to just a bunch of friends to sitting together, to a Friday night meal, whatever it is, just for yourself, going to classes or reading things that are purely for personal growth, purely for your soul. This is something that you can choose to incorporate into your personal life. And basically what I invite you guys to do, if you like, is to really use this beautiful Jewish quality of being curious and being all the time we used to be called the people of the book. Not only because of the Bible, but because we can't anymore say that the Bible is only ours, but because of in the past history we've been reading and learning and discussing and arguing, agreeing, disagreeing, sometimes even just playing the devil's advocate all the time, really learning together. So we can have different kind of societies surround us, but we can choose also to find those friends who actually encourage me to grow, find the community, find sources for that. So I want to thank you guys for participating in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
This place is called Livnot Uleibanot, to build and to be built. Hopefully you understand a little bit better why. We run programs, extension options for you if you choose to do that, if you want to spend your time here or to come back. We have community service. We didn't have the chance to do that today. We did it theoretically. And so everything that we do here, we try to do it hands-on. So if it's Jewish learning, if it's community service, or nature and hiking, you guys are most welcome to check our website out. It's livnot.com. We'll be giving out brochures. And thank you again for joining us. Don't miss the view from the balcony.
Toda rabah.